Hello and welcome to What Does the Data Tell You? This time it's with me, David Danny from the Digital Marketing Bureau. James unfortunately had to cancel last minute due to family commitments, so you have to put up with me for 30 minutes. Today I'm very privileged to have BuzzSumo Steve Rayson. And for those who are very new to the What's the Data Tell You show, the purpose of this show is to give an insight into the various social platforms out there and to use them for those, and for those who watch it recently all the time, you'll know that James uses this famous pizza drop equate. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And basically that's what the show is about. Give an idea on what platforms can help you. Just to basically help you with all your various social media campaigns. I'm also going to start some basic housekeeping. So here at the D&B, we use the Showcase app. From experience, some people don't like the app, some do. That depends on yourself. And what we do, we put interesting links in there. So today we'll have all the content relating to Steve's platform, BuzzSumo. And just to let you know, if you're watching from Google+, you can submit your comments via the events page. If you're watching outside of Google+, you can replay this, and there should be a button in the left-hand corner, which is to be part of the conversation. This will open up into another window, and you'll be able to access all the links that we've put in there. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Steve Rayson from BuzzSumo.
Hi, David. Thank you. Thanks very much for having me today.
It's a pleasure.
So, do you want me to run through BuzzSumo, what we're doing, or do you want to run through a few questions?
Yes. So, for those who are very new to your platform, as for those who do know about it, is a content marketing platform. I just want to know, why should people, or why should we do a competitive analysis? Why is it important for anyone who is a marketer?
Okay, I suppose we all have competitors. I suppose that's where it starts. Is we all have competitors. We live in a fairly competitive world, and we're typically competing for customers. But often in the funnel stage, we're competing for attention. We're competing for awareness, for brand awareness, for getting people to read and share our content, and then move them further down the funnel to hopefully become customers for us. So we all have customers. We all have competitors. So we've designed BuzzSumo to really focus on the content marketing side of things, to see what content is your competitor producing, how is it comparing to your content, what sort of shares are they getting compared to you, how well are they performing on certain social networks, what types of data are they, what types of content formats are they using. So that's where we came from with BuzzSumo. It's really trying to focus on more of content marketing. I think all the evidence now is people are increasingly visiting sites from what are called social side doors, which is they see a link in a feed, they go and see the content, they review it, they might share it, etc. And so social sharing of content is increasingly important in the world of content marketing. So that's very much what we're focused on, what I'll show you through today.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think we should definitely go ahead and screen share this interesting platform of yours.
Okay, I'll just share my screen with you. So hopefully, you can now see my screen. So I'll explain what we do at BuzzSumo. In essence, what we do is we just crawl all of the social shares of content on the web. We've been doing that for over a year. So we can show you the most shared content in any topic. So just very quickly, if I wanted to search for the most shared content in SEO, I can put it.
I'm not sure if I can see your screen share yet. If you could try that again, Steve.
Okay, it's saying screen sharing, okay.
That's it. Cool.
Let me screen share it again. Okay, now it says I'm screen sharing. Is that okay, David?
That's it. Good to go.
Great. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, people. So in essence, you can type in any topic like SEO. I've just typed in here, and as you can see, I can see the most shared content for that topic, and I can filter that topic on the left by content type or by date. So I can see the most shared content for any particular topic. So if I wanted to see what's resonating on SEO yesterday, I can search for the most shared content on SEO yesterday. But in terms of competitor analysis, what's really useful is I can type in a competitor domain name into my search, and this will bring back exactly the same results, but just for that domain. So I've typed in BuzzSumo.com, and now what I can see is the most shared content on that domain, which happens to be our particular domain. So I can see the article, I can see who authored it, for example, and then I can see how often it was shared. So this top article 500 times, and I can see how often it was shared on each network. And I can resort by network if I want. I can click on LinkedIn here, and I can resort by LinkedIn, or I can resort by Twitter, depending on what I'm interested in. So the starting point for our competitor analysis is, what's your competitor's most shared content, and how does it compare to your own? So are they producing more content? They're getting a lot more shares than you are. And there are a number of interesting things to look at. The first thing you might want to do is to say, well, that's interesting. That's actually had a lot of shares. So this top article's had a lot of shares. Who's sharing that content? And I can go over here to View Sharers, click View Sharers, and then I can see all the people that shared that content. So I've now got back a list of the people who shared that BuzzSumo article. So if you're a competitor of ours, you might want to look at who's sharing our content. And you can see here, I can see if I'm following somebody, it says unfollow. If I'm not following them, it gives me the option to follow this particular individual. So you could follow these people. You can also add them to your Twitter list. So you can create a Twitter list for, I don't know, BuzzSumo amplifiers, people amplifying our content. I can tweet to them directly. So I've produced a list of all the people who are sharing this particular competitor's content. I can resort those influencers a number of ways. I might want to resort them by the domain authority of their site. I might want to sort them by reach, who's got the most followers, who can raise awareness. I might want to look at engagement, who's getting a large number of average retweets, and reach out to those people. And the nice thing about BuzzSumo here is I can export all of this data into an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV file. I will say there are two versions of BuzzSumo. There's a free version. You can come in and just do a search, as I've done here on a free version. There are certain features that are pro version only, so and the export feature is one of those. I'll mention various pro features as I go. There's a $99 a month package for agencies, etc. But the free version, you can do all the searches I'm showing you without going into the pro version. But if you want to export and do those sorts of analysis, that's within the pro version. So the first thing we can do is we can see what content is being shared. We can see what's working for a particular site. And I can do advanced searches here as well. If I'm searching a site with a lot of content, so let's say I was searching LinkedIn.com, there's masses of content, so I can actually search for a topic within a domain. So I can say I just want to see the articles on leadership on LinkedIn that are most shared. So I can search for a subdomain within a particular site. So what I now have back are the most shared content articles about leadership on LinkedIn. So I can search for a topic within a domain, which can be quite useful if you're searching for a competitor or you want to see what a Harvard Business Review or somebody like that is saying about a particular topic. You can also search subdomains if you want with BuzzSumo. So if the site's organized with subcategories, so the Daily Telegraph in the UK has a science section, I can search that. So I can either search for a topic within the domain, or I can actually search for a whole subsection of the site and try and bring back the most shared content for a particular subsection, which is taking a little while on my search here. Come back. So now what I've got for the Daily Telegraph here is the most shared content in their science section. Other quick things that you could do, which may be helpful to you if you're monitoring competitors, is you can save a search. And because you can use lots of operators, I've got a save search here for tracking companies, not direct competitors to BuzzSumo, but similar companies. And you can see that what I've got search here is saying, show me the most shared content on this site, trendspotter.com, or trackmaven.com, or tracker.com. I don't want to type that in every time. This one search will show me the most shared content across all of those sites. So you can do more advanced searches. So that's a sort of quick in terms of seeing what's working for a competitor domain. The other thing you can do is go up here to a content analysis report. So we can look at an analysis of their site, or we can compare them with another site. I'll just do firstly an analysis of a site. So here I've run an analysis for mods.com. It could be for any domain. We work with any domain here. And it's showing me over the last 6 months they've published 800 articles, showing me they've got 300,000 shares. So I can see on average Moz are getting 434 shares per post. So it gives me a benchmark. So how does that compare with my own site? So we can do a search in a moment. I can just show you how we compare with Moz, but it starts to give you a benchmark of how you're performing. But I also get some quite interesting data. I can see where are they getting their shares. So I can see for Moz that most of their shares are coming on Twitter. So that seems to be the network they're working most or they're getting most resonance on. I can also look at their content by content type. So here I can see that actually the content formats and types that are working best for them are list post. A list post is anything beginning with a number. 5 ways to do something, 9 blogging tools you must use, for example. And similarly, a how-to article is something that begins with how to or why. Infographics are much easier to identify, and videos easy to identify. So I can see for Moz that actually they're getting a lot of success with list posts. So if they were a competitor of mine, I might think maybe I need to be looking more at, how much success am I getting with list posts? Am I using the wrong content formats and types? I can also see when are they publishing content and when are they getting their shares? And I can see for Moz, they're getting virtually all their shares Monday to Friday, and it's fairly evenly spread throughout the week. They're publishing virtually nothing on a Saturday or Sunday. That probably makes sense. But on other topic areas, if I was looking at kitchen design and things like that, actually you find that you get a lot of shares on the weekend, so you might want to be publishing content on the weekend. So I can see when they're publishing. I'll show you BuzzSumo in a moment. We publish mainly early in the week. I can do further analysis. So I can see the content length, and I can see that they're getting more shares the longer their content. So their sweet spot is content of over 3,000 words. That's getting the most shares for them. So again, it's something interesting for me to have a look. If I want to compare Moz to our own site, I can do a domain comparison. So I can do a comparison, for example, of BuzzSumo.com with another site. So I use SEMrush as an example here. Again, not really a competitor site to ours, but I'll show you how the comparison works. This pulls back the same data, but it shows it side by side. So what this will bring back for us now is a comparison of BuzzSumo and of SEMrush. So I can see over 6 months we've published 31 articles, broadly about a post a week. We've been busy building this tool, and hopefully you like it, and there's lots in it. And we're getting 50 average shares for those posts. By contrast, SEMrush are publishing almost 10 times as much content as we are. So they've obviously got a lot of guest bloggers and people on that site. And they're getting more average shares as well. They're actually getting 69 average shares compared to our 50. Not too many more shares on average, but they're publishing a huge amount of content. So they'll be getting a lot more visits and traction as a consequence of that activity. When I look at the shares by network, I can see that actually we're getting most of ours on Twitter. They're interestingly getting most of theirs on Google+. So it's maybe something we could work a little bit harder on Google+, because they're getting 24 shares on Google+ for each post, and we're down at something like 12. So that's something we can look at there. We can have a look at content types. So on content type here, we haven't got that much content to analyze, but list posts are doing best for us. We can actually see for SEMrush that the posts working better for them are probably how-to articles as well as lists. So again, it's something we could consider. Maybe there's a need for practical style posts in this area, and they're publishing a lot of how-to posts. We can look at shares by date published. As I mentioned, we tend to publish early in the week, Monday to Tuesday, 1 or 2 blog posts. SEMrush are publishing more consistently across the week. But interestingly, you can see for both of us, we're both getting maximum Twitter shares on a Monday. So it's quite an interesting profile. They're getting more Google+ activity on a Thursday, but they're getting consistently more traffic from Twitter on a Monday, as we are. And then if I analyze by content length, as an example, you can see that we haven't published any content over 3,000 words, which is interesting because when I look at SEM's content, their most shared posts are over 3,000 words. So it's long-form content that's working really well for SEMrush. So there's a question mark for us as should we be producing more long-form content to make sure that we maximize our shares, because they're getting a huge number of shares on theirs. I mean, in fact, we're not that far off them when we look at shorter content, but on the longer form content, they're getting an average of 650 shares for long form content, whereas we're only getting 126 for our longer form content. So we really need to look probably at longer form content. So you can see hopefully there how you can not only search for their most shared content, but you can search for an analysis of how well they're doing. But of course, competitors change all the time. They publish new content. Your competitor would have published new content yesterday. So we could do a top content search to say what was our competitor's most shared content yesterday, and we could have a look at that. So we could say, if we looked at a particular site, what was their most shared content yesterday or the last week? So I could say for mods.com, what was their most shared content in the last week? And I could have a look at that. So they're still publishing quite a lot of content. Actually, this whole thing about ranking factors is really resonating this week with this particular audience. But content's published all the time, so what I think you need to do is to be monitoring it. And we have a content alerts tool within BuzzSumo to help you do this. And I think it's quite nice. You can create 4 types of alerts. We're crawling content all the time, and we can send you an alert via email or to a dashboard. And you get 2 free alerts in the free version of BuzzSumo, so you can do this in the free version. You can just set up 2 content alerts. The first is a keyword or brand alert, and that really does what it says on the tin. So I could set up a keyword alert for BuzzSumo. So that might be my competitor's brand, for example. And then every time we find a piece of content, we'll send you an alert. If you're getting a lot of alerts, you might want to just search the title and topic of an article rather than the entire article text. We did have somebody who unfortunately put YouTube as a keyword, and of course they got thousands of alerts, and they're saying, how do I turn it off? Because in the article text you'll find that thousands of times, so you'd want to filter probably for just title and topic. And you can have that emailed to you immediately we find it, or as a daily digest. And if you have it as a daily digest, you can say, I want it every morning at 7 a.m. But if in real time, we'll send it to you literally in real time, and I'll show you examples. You can search for a particular language, such as Spanish or all languages. And if you're getting a lot of content, you can specify a share threshold, which is, look, don't bother me if my competitors had 10 shares, but if they've had over 20, send me an alert, because I want to see what's accelerating, what's really gaining traction for them. So I could set a minimum share level, and then I can send it to myself, or I can send it to any other email address. It could be your colleague or friend. And if I show you then what that looks like on the dashboard, I've got one set up here for BuzzSumo. So I click it on the left-hand side, my alert, and this is fairly much how it appears in your email. So you can see here it's saying, actually, that was an article that I published on BuzzSumo. So it's picked that up, and it was published 5 hours ago, earlier today. But it's showing me for each piece what was the title of the article, which site, who was the author, and then a snippet, just so that I can see, is it something that I want to reply to, I want to say thank you for, something that I want to reshare. And you can see that I've set the minimum number of shares to 0, because I like to get things as soon as we find it. I don't want to wait until it's had 20 shares, etc. So, and so the sort of information you get here is exactly the same as you would get in your email. So that's one alert. The other alerts are directly related to your competitor tracking. The first is a domain alert. So here, if I put in BuzzSumo.com, what we'll do now is every time BuzzSumo publishes a new piece of content, we'll send you an alert. So you don't need to keep going back and looking at different competitor sites to see if they've published some interesting new content or white paper. We'll send you an alert every time. You can also do subdomains within this as well. So you could just say, I want to be alerted when they publish a new blog post on the blog section. Or again, you could use a keyword term in here as well. So I want to be alerted when they publish new content which contains the word SEO. So you can really filter down your searches so that you get an alert for something that's very tailored for what you want. And again, you can get that in real time or as a daily digest. You can set a minimum number of shares, and you can send it to somebody or yourself if you want the email from it. So that's a domain alert, and people really like that for tracking competitors, because as I say, it's not a static thing. You might track competitors one week, but next week they'll have moved on to something else. The world continually moves, and the hard work for us is keeping pace with that. And the next form of alert you can set is a link alert. In some ways, it's the reverse of a domain alert. What we're doing here, if we put a link in here to BuzzSumo.com, anytime we find a piece of content that links to BuzzSumo.com, we'll send you an alert. So if you set up alerts for, say, 3 of your competitors, every time somebody links to them, you could have a look at the article, see whether it's an outreach opportunity for you to get them to link to your site, see why they're linking to it. There may be backlink opportunities there. You can also filter it down. You can say, I want a link to BuzzSumo.com, or actually I want a link to an exact URL. So if my competitors published an interesting white paper or published an interesting webinar Hangout recording, I can put in the exact URL, and then I'll only get alerted when people link to that specific piece of content. So I set up a link alert for a specific white paper, and I'll get an alert every time a piece of content links to that particular URL. And then again, I can get it in real time or as an email report. So what's really nice is you can really track a competitor and get it all to come to you in the form of alerts rather than you having to go out and find it from site. So if you set up these 3 alerts that I've got here, if you set up a brand alert for them, if you set up a link alert, and you set up a domain alert, you've fairly much got them covered. You'll certainly know every time they're publishing new content. You can also set up author alerts, less relevant for competitors, but if you set up an author alert for Steve Rayson, you'll get an alert every time that I publish a new article and my name's included in the byline. So there are 4 main types of alerts, but hopefully you can see how that will give you a fairly good comprehensive overview as to what's being shared for a particular competitor. And other nice things that you can do as well. So here are all my content alerts for BuzzSumo. You can see it just summarizes it. It's minimum of 0 shares, and it's emailing me a copy each time. I can edit the alert, but I can also export it. So I can export all of the data here. So I may have been running this for a month. I can now export all the data of all the sites that linked to BuzzSumo or that mentioned BuzzSumo, or a list of all the content that my competitor site published, and I can export all of that into an Excel sheet to work on it. And that's a pro feature. Another thing that you can do is you can create an RSS feed from an alert. So this is quite useful. So you might want to then put this into Feedly if you use Feedly or an RSS reader. You might want to do something clever with it. You might want to say, look, all content that my 6 competitors publish, which has over 50 shares, take the RSS feed, use the tool called If This Then That, and put it into Pocket for me to read later. So you can do a lot with the RSS feeds and just have a list of stuff that you want to read. But again, you can really filter the alerts. It's only for certain topics. It's only for things that are getting well shared. So hopefully that gives you a good sense of how you can track your competitors. I say that the starting point for most people is to simply come into the site and type in the domain name. So they may want to, if we go back to SEMrush, for example, it's simply to type the domain name. And these searches are free, so you can just go onto the site and you will see, if you're a free member, you'll see at the very least the top 5 pieces of content that they've shared. You can then view the sharers and start to see who's sharing it and why. So that's what we've been doing around really a competitive tool for content marketing. It does lots of other things, of course, in terms of content marketing, and you can find influencers in any topic using the Influencers tab. But today I just wanted to focus on how you might use the tool to do competitor tracking. So hopefully that's a good introduction. David, I'm sure you've got questions for me now. If you want to ask questions, and I'll stop sharing for now. And if you want to ask any questions, and I'll do my best to respond.
Yeah, if we could, oh yeah, put you off screen share now.
Yeah.
I think that's such a fascinating platform. I mean, it's so versatile. I mean, I really like the whole RSS feature. I think that's really, really good. But one thing it's worth just noting, the people who are watching and are interested in using BuzzSumo, particularly the Pro version, I would just like to find out, for example, with the free one, is there a limit on how many searches you can have?
No, there's really effectively one version, but extra features which are the Pro version. So everything I've shown you, you'll see when you log into BuzzSumo. You don't have to register at all, and you can do a number of free searches a day. If you register, you can do unlimited number of searches. So you can search for top content to your heart's content. You can use the filters. You can search for the most shared content for a domain. There is a restriction on domains. We only show you the top 5 most shared articles on the domain comparisons. But you can do as many searches as you want, search for as many sites as you want on that. So yeah, we get a lot of people coming in to do that. That's one of the major purposes that people use it for. And also, as I say, you get 2 free content alerts. So you can set up a content alert for your own brand or a competitor domain, and there are 2 free alerts which you get anyway, just with the free version.
Okay, interesting. Another thing that I thought I'd point out was, again, you can create like Twitter lists from BuzzSumo, which, if I'm honest with you, I'm a big fan of Twitter lists. I think they're really, really good. I was thinking for like future developments, and also mention this because I know there's a lot of also like Google Plus people on here. Would you be looking for something in the future where you could, users could create like a Google Plus circle, say a BuzzSumo circle?
Yeah, we're always looking. The first thing is we're always looking at new ideas. We're still relatively new for us. We only launched the Pro version at the start of September, so it's only a month old, although the beta's been out for a year, and thank you to everyone who's been using it and giving us feedback. So we're always after new ideas. So people every day suggest new things that we could do. Can we provide this trends data? Can we integrate and show stuff from Instagram, for example? So we're continually looking at that. So we've got a number of new features sort of that we're thinking about. We haven't currently been planning to add that feature of creating circles, but it's certainly something we could look at. We are doing a lot more about location searches and language filters. People asked a lot for that. So if you go into the influencer tab, you can type in any topic and find the top influencers for any topic. There's now a location filter, so you could specify London or New York, and you can see the top SEO influencers in any particular city in the world. And as you see on the content alerts, we've started adding language filters. So some people only want to see Spanish content or other content or French content. So we will be adding that in the next few months to the top content search. We've just gradually been crawling the data and categorizing it. And once we have enough data, we'll make that live. But it's already live for your content alerts.
Okay, interesting. One thing as well, when you do like these analyses of like your competitors, like what are the key metrics that you look for?
Yeah, I mean there are a number of metrics really. I suppose people use a range of things when they look at them. So they might start by saying, let's get an estimate of their traffic, and they may go to sites like compete.com or alexa.com just to see how well they're doing as sites, where they're being ranked, roughly how much traffic they're getting. What we're really trying to focus in on is, how well is their content engaging with their audience, and that is reflected in the number of times it's getting shared, for example, and commented on. So what we're trying to find is, how well are they doing at content marketing? What are their average shares? Where are they resonating? What type of content? So they're the metrics that we're typically looking at against a competitor. And we'll also in time look at links back to them and those sorts of things. But at the moment, we're really looking a lot at how well their content is resonating with the audience. That's what we're really trying to address. And you can do a side-by-side domain comparison. You see, what are my average shares? How many articles am I doing? How does that compare to my competitor? But also, how does it compare to the topic as a whole? You can just type in a topic like content marketing or SEO or e-learning or any topic, and it will show you again how many articles have been published, but the average shares for an article. So I did a big piece of research this week looking at content marketing articles, and I think the average share for a content marketing article was 60 to 70, but actually it was quite skewed, so you really needed to get about 90 shares to be up in the sort of top 10% so of content. So it's good to have a benchmark, otherwise you share a piece of content, it gets shared 50 times. Is that good, is that bad? It's quite nice to have some form of benchmark against that.
So that will also be linked to the reach as well.
Sorry.
Also be looking at you look at other metrics like a potential reach.
Yeah.
Like take those metrics into consideration as well.
Yeah, we do, and we look at primarily looking at the people who share their content. So the other thing we're interested in is, and I think this is true of a lot of content these days, is the role of influencers. We think influencers are very important in terms of how stuff gets shared, how it goes viral. So we've added those features so you can see who's sharing your competitor content, and then you can look at the potential reach that's had, because we can see the total number of followers that those people who shared their content have. So we can see the potential reach for that content. That doesn't mean people necessarily do see it, of course. So we also have the metric, which is a much harder one, which is how many then people actually also reshared it. But so we do look at that, and I think the whole interesting thing is around influencer and influencer amplification of content.
Also, just to start the show, for like newbies of BuzzSumo, what would be your top 3 tips you'd recommend to people?
Yeah, I'd say get in initially and just do some searches. Get into the homepage, the top content page, and do some searches so you can see what's there. Search for your own domain, search for a competitor's domain, a few topics. The one thing I'd really recommend, and the thing that I love about BuzzSumo, is the content alerts. I think it's just a fantastic alerts tool. We've been monitoring it against Google Alerts and lots of other alert tools, and we certainly seem to find more content and much faster. So, but the only way for people to see that is to just go into content alerts and create some, maybe create a domain alert for a competitor. But just maybe start with some brand alerts. Start with some brand alerts. Maybe, again, if you start, I would start with 0 shares. So you just get notified every time we find a piece of content, and then gradually filter it down. So if you're finding that's too many alerts, you might want to say, just give me, articles that have been shared more than 10 times, and then you might add a few more and filter until you find the right range, really. But the content alerts are really powerful, and they come straight into your inbox, so you get notified as soon as somebody's mentioned your brand, or as soon as a competitor's published a new piece of content, or someone's linked to their content. So yeah, I'd say go in, dive in, and have a play with the alerts. I think for me, they're one of the most powerful features.
Well, from what you see here, this is a platform. I think I've used like the free version before, but I think now from what you've shown us today, and yeah, I think it's definitely worth having a play, and even pro version.
Yeah, no, and the other thing is that there's a free 14-day trial of the Pro version. There's no obligation. You don't need a credit card. So if you just want to have a play with the Pro version, that's not a problem. Do sign up for a normal account, but you can sign up on the plans page for a free 14-day trial of the Pro plan. And so there's no obligation going forward. Hopefully you'll love it and you'll want to keep it. But you can just go in, sign up for the 14-day free trial, and have a play with the Pro plan.
Again, those who are watching, for some reason, I don't know if it's the comment tracker or it is me. For some reason, I was having some difficulties with it earlier on. So if you have any questions after the show for Steve, either contact him via Google Plus or what works best for you, Steve?
Yeah, that's it. You're always welcome to mail me. I'm just steve@buzzsumo.com. That's an easy way to get hold of me. My Twitter handle is just @Steve Rayson, so you can get hold of me both ways. So, but steve@buzzsumo.com. Any questions or queries, we're always keen to get back to you and help.
Well, we've just gone over the 30-minute mark, so I'm just going to wrap it up here. Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on and teaching us all about BuzzSumo today. Just to let you know, next week we will be back with James for the midweek marketing mix. So if you live, for those who live here in the UK, that's at 5 o'clock. I believe if you're on the west coast of America, that would be at 9 a.m. PST, and if you're from the east, I believe that would be at 12 p.m. EST. But again, Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome, and thanks to everyone that's been watching the show.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Take care. Bye.